Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the TrailBlazers podcast. For this one today, we are throwing it back to the traditional format of a long-form guest interview. Today we have an awesome guest for you. His name is Anthony Rivest, and he is a personal transformation expert who currently lives in Georgia, on the other side of the world, not the state of Georgia. He's got a really interesting story. Started kind of hit rock bottom back in 2016, and has had some really inspiring changes in his life, and is well versed in dealing with trials and tribulations and challenges and how to overcome those, and now he's evolved more into the personal transformation space for other people too. He does it as a bit of a coaching job now. So it was a really interesting interview. I thought there's something for everybody in here. We covered such a wide range of topics. Dave, what did you think about the recording? What could people look forward to in this one?
Yeah, I'd say like in regards to like things people could look forward to, like lots of things in particular that I'm thinking about. So I think Anthony shares lots of information about like say like people who might not be like completely fulfilled on their current lives or current path. Like you might have like a good career, might have like things, but you're not feeling super fulfilled in like everything that's going on in your day-to-day life. So he sort of talks about like his experience as like a personal transformation expert, and say like working with clients and developing roadmaps to unlock some of your potential or unlock some of these things that you might not have like a clear vision on. And so then going forward as a future is that like you can build yourself towards a life that you're excited to live, right? And I think like a lot of us, in our day-to-day lives, like we might not have like the perfect vision or like lack the clarity of like how we want to continue to develop ourselves in the long run. So like I'm sure this episode, or just like say learning about Anthony, or like a life coach, or like a transformation expert in general, would be like quite interesting to people. He also is like extremely personal, so he shares like his experience of like hitting rock bottom, and then but also like how he built himself back up. So I think it's like a good story in that regard. And finally shares about his like crazy experience about like living abroad and basically moving abroad on like a whim, and also learning a second language to like fluency. So I think there's lots of good little tidbits in there. Tyler, what were some of your takeaways?
I mean, yeah, that's all good points. He basically, he moved to Georgia with nothing, and then had to integrate into that society, and his journey from that to where he is now, they're having professional businesses and a whole family, and everything is just incredible. So I'll let it speak for itself. We're just going to toss it right over to the interview with Anthony. We hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, here you go.
Life coaching is too broad in general, and it's a bit boring. It's hard to market yourself as just a life coach, and I realize actually I help people go through a lot of transformation to be able to have the life that they always dreamed of. And I had to go myself through amazing transformation to be able to go to Georgia and to learn a new language, to meet my wife. Like to have everything I have today was because I've been through a lot internally, and I journaled my process through millions of words, literally millions. I had like journal for every year and 100,000, like hundreds of thousands of words for every year since 2016, 17. So now I'm a bit calmer on this side because I internalize faster. I can process information faster, and I can meditate or can have like reflection. But I still like to write almost every day. If it's not gratitude, that it will be something else, some thoughts. That's pretty much one of my habits.
So speaking of that personal transformation, since this is your profession now, I think I kind of want to give you some street credibility right off the start. Let's go back to right before you moved to Georgia, when you were just about to embark on a huge personal transformation. That's a huge life change to move to the other side of the world. And I think a lot of people can find themselves in this situation where there is this big decision to make, and there's that hesitation because there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of unknowns, things could go poorly, and a lot of people will never really take that first step. So maybe if you give us like a, so to speak, a look in the spirit of like inside of your journal at that time, what's your life like then, and how do you decide to actually make that leap to go to Georgia? Actually,
for me to say that story, I need to go back a bit to speak about how I didn't have my health even at the time. So, Tyler, you know about my past, but Dave doesn't know, and your audience doesn't know. So I will bring you back, guys, to 2016. I was working in a job that I didn't like. I was selling door-to-door insurance policies, And I was miserable. I really disliked this job so much. And after maybe, I would say, 8 or 9 months, well, I was already taking drugs almost every week. Not every week, to be honest, every week. But then it was not so fun anymore. It was like to hide something, to escape my reality, because I didn't like my professional path. So I'm saying, I'm just going to forget about it, get high on the weekends. But eventually it was not fun anymore. And I was taking it just to feel alive. And it led me to a near-death experience. So it was August 2016. I thought I was having a heart attack. It was a panic attack, but it was the same symptoms as a heart attack, because I was really, really like 3 days without sleeping, combining of substance that you don't want to mix like together. And so I went to the hospital, and there was this one nurse who told me one sentence that I will never forget. She said, "Anthony, you only have one heart. Take care of it." And after that, I went to rehab for a couple of weeks. I didn't grow so much in rehab because I was feeling that the system was maybe too much on the victim mentality. So I didn't like that. So I was able to speak with my parents more, and my parents are big in personal development. So I could like coach myself faster than with the rehab center. And I had nothing but respect to these people, but I decided to leave after, I think, 3 weeks with the approval of the psychologist. And then, guys, what was in front of this rehab center? A mixed martial arts gym. So that was the beginning of me taking my health back in my own hands. And I took a full year to bring my health back to normal. This was at the same time I broke up with my ex-girlfriend after 2 years and some months. There was already some sign that the relationship should be finished already, but I was denying the expiration date. I had some maybe doubts that she was cheating on me. I was not sure, but eventually we just agreed that it was not the best thing for us, so we just split. And then I was alone. And I think this, for your audience, what can be good is, no matter if you're single or if you're with your significant other, if you have time for yourself for an extended period of time, it can be 6 months, a year, or if you do a bit every day, you will cultivate this attitude of, I know who I am. I know what I want. I trust myself to make the right decisions. And when I make decisions, I move forward. So fast forward this mixed martial arts journey, which ended in I can speak about this too just quickly. So I had a big concussion. After a year of training, I was preparing for a first amateur fight, and I got knocked out in training by accident. And it took me over 4 months to recover from all the symptoms. So I was like, well, that doesn't seem to be my path. If I get knocked out in training, how it will be like even just trying to fight in an amateur league, yeah? So sometimes life is also telling you some signs like, maybe not this path. Maybe it was good for your health and you had a dream, but maybe do something else. So that's when I discovered italki, which is where I met Tyler. So, yeah, Dave, you want to say something about italki?
Sorry. So actually, Tyler recommended it to me, and I've been using it now since I've been back in North America for language learning for both Chinese and Spanish. So yeah, love italki.
It's a great platform. It's a great platform. I'm still teaching on that, not as much as before. Now I have more private clients and coaching clients, but still I respect italki for everything it gave me. So on italki, at first I was interested in Russian. Don't ask me why. I was just curious about it, and that's maybe one thing that people can try. Don't judge yourself. If you have some new interest and you're just curious about something, go for it. Take a class. Try it. If it can be dance, can be art, can be languages, can be physics, can be astrology, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you feel, what about that? Let me go and dive deep and see how it is inside this realm. So I started Russian, and then after 4 months, I met this interesting girl online. She was Georgian, and she said to me, "Anthony, do you know about Georgia? Do you know Georgian language?" And I said, "What is this? Georgia? It's a state in USA." No. The country, the little country under. This is the typical reply from everybody. Georgia? No, I'm not in the States. Georgia, the country. So after a couple weeks, I realized that there was much more than just language exchange in this relationship. I started to feel attraction, and I was like, Anthony, you're stupid. Don't fall into this trap. This is not a good idea. She's 8,000 kilometers away from you. This is not a good idea. But my intuition was telling me something else. And now the interesting part, guys. If you like a bit of woo-woo stuff, let's dive into it. So it was one morning, and I was in my bed. It was 5-something a.m., half asleep, half awake. And I received a vision of me in a church marrying this girl. And I was at the church. There was my grandmother as an angel on top of me, which my grandmother passed away a million years ago. My parents were on the benches, and family were there. And I woke up and I had tears of what's going on. I went to say that to my parents, and I still have goosebumps telling the story. I went to my parents. It was breakfast. I said, "Dear parents, I think I'm gonna marry this girl," and they both started to cry. Okay, I think we're on something right now. So, fast forward 4 months after we met online. It was just online relationship. So, no physical contact, no hug, no kiss, no nothing, just emotional bonding first, which is very rare in modern society with all the Tinders and stuff like that. It's like, I was not even sure I would be able to do it, but I did it. So I moved to Georgia. My father gave me $500. I had zero money. I was coming out from drug addiction. I had barely any income, maybe I had a couple italki clients, but maybe 5 lessons a week, or not even. It was almost nothing. So I came to Georgia with nothing. I didn't know the language. I knew the alphabet maybe. So imagine coming to a country which is very conservative. You hear it's Orthodox Christian, so it's a very conservative country. And my in-laws are also conservative. So to come here, not knowing the language, I could speak a bit of Russian at the time. So I was learning Russian and Georgian at the same time. Now I just study Georgian. I could still speak a bit with my in-laws, but not much. So what saved my soul was just, I had a good heart. I was there for the right reason. And I decided I will make it work. And I'm sure many men out there, or even women, can relate. So usually women, they want a guy who is confident, who has his things together. He's a bit alpha to some extent. I had none of that. I was the ultimate beta man. Maria is my wife. Maria, save me. I have nothing. Literally, I had she gave me utensils. She gave me sheets for my bed. It was a very difficult start. And the fantasy of this guy from Canada, I came here, I have nothing. So she was forced to support me like a mother for a while. And because of that, it almost didn't work out. So after even some days, I don't even know if it was 1 week or 2, I almost came back to Canada. This would have been the biggest failure of my life. But you know what? When I was at peace with the idea that maybe I will have to go back, but I came here with the pure intention, if I fail, and I will accept my failure. But the same day I had this moment of letting go of the outcome, don't think about marriage, don't think about long-term relationship, just be present. My soon-to-be wife texted me back, okay, let's meet again, let's try to make it work. I spoke too fast the other day, it's fine. And now we're still together. Been married for 3 years, so I proposed to her very fast, because people have to know this in Georgia. If you're not married, you cannot live together. And for me as a Quebecois, it was I'm not gonna stay here alone in the apartment for a long time. So I made a very ballsy decision. And after 6 months, I proposed. And after 1 year of texting her on italki, we were married at the government, signing documents. And now this is 4 years. So 3 years of marriage, but 4 years of relationship, if we want to say. And we have a 1-year-old daughter, which is beautiful and amazing, but also hard times. So that's my story, guys, for people who are wondering about this journey. It's a long one, but I hope it was not so boring.
No, man, absolutely. That's a very interesting start to that. And you took a lot of risk there. And like you said, you showed up there with nothing, had to adapt to the society. Dave and I have both been expats in the past. Well, Dave currently still is going to foreign countries. For anybody that out there that is thinking of, maybe early on in their career life, like studying abroad, taking a job somewhere else in a foreign place that doesn't have the same culture and customs of where they're from, what would be, because you're very well adapted to Georgian society now, I know that from talking to you after all this time, what's like some of the number one things you would give advice to a person who's going somewhere in order to integrate into that society and successfully be able to live there long term?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I would say first thing that comes to my mind, forget how things were in your hometown. Forget how things are done in your native country. Embrace the unknown, embrace the discomfort, because if you are too attached to how it was back home, you will be miserable, depressed, you have big amounts of anxiety. So the only way to fight that is to actually, you come to the new country and you say, okay, I don't know many people. Do I know one person? If you know one person, it's already very good. You have a contact that you can just grow from there. It doesn't mean to become a super networker, but if you have one person you trust in a foreign environment, this can play a big role in just how you feel every day. So I would say connect with at least one person that you trust. It can be, maybe you started this relationship before coming to the country, that's also wise. And then when you're there and you act every day, remember yourself, remember why you came here and what is your big reason to be in this position, on this trip. Is it to know yourself? Is it to be professionally successful? Is it to meet a love of your life? Some people like to just go abroad and see the dating market. It's not bad either. So in this case, when you will have harder days, you will be able to recognize, okay, this is some tough times. Not everybody is ready to face this hardship, but I'm here for a reason or many reasons, and I cannot go back now. This is not the time for me to crawl back in my fetal position, sucking my thumb, Mama, give me my milk. We don't want none of that. If you're man or woman, you're grown up, you take life by the horn and you go forward. And you realize every day when it's difficult, when you face oh, I miss home, or where are my friends, these feelings are always temporary. So you will wake up the day after, and sometimes even the same day. But usually for me it was the day after. New morning. If you go to bed a bit sad, go sleep, wake up. You're blessed with a new day this morning. What are you going to do about this morning? Okay, I'm here. What do I do best? What do I know how to do? Who can I help? Who I can communicate or connect with? Do we have some clients to serve? Do we have anybody in community? Because it depends on people. I don't know who's listening to this podcast, but if you want to do something new, I really encourage, don't just stay in your community of, let's say you're just Canadians together or just Americans together. Dare to speak with new people. For me, what was very useful is to speak with taxi drivers, because I knew they would not judge me and I would never see them again, unless I'm with the odds of having to have an Uber. Here it's called Yandex, but to have a taxi and then you will see the same guy twice in a year, it's almost impossible. Because anyway, so speak with people, and don't be afraid to look stupid, because if you also have to learn a new language, failure is inevitable. You cannot escape it. You should embrace it. And all the hard feelings of I suck, I'm miserable, I will never make it. Trust me, guys. This is all part of the bigger plan, and there's no way you can become anywhere near fluent, even intermediate level, even B1, without suffering a lot. And Tyler knows that very well. I guess Dave also, and I know. Oh my God, all the criticism, and especially from, I would say that now, my wife was my biggest critic, because she had very, very high standards. She wanted me to be good in front of my family-in-law, of my parents-in-law. So there was this pressure to perform. And this is double-edged sword, because it can be a motivation to study and grow faster, but it can also be difficult because you will take everything more personally if something bad happened in the family situation, or if it's with your friend over there. So what was the original question again? Was that enough?
It's about, yeah, no, that was perfect.
Yeah.
You really covered how you can integrate into the society
Yes,
successfully, especially when it has a different language and everything like that. And I know, yeah, it must have been a humbling experience to learn Georgian. Like, I know it was a humbling experience for me to learn French, and Dave's Chinese is incredibly advanced, and he got to that level years ago. But now I know Dave's taking Spanish now, and he's kind of going through that whole thing over again, right, Dave?
Guys, you're talking about failure in languages. Like me last night, I took an hour Chinese class, and then I went directly into a 30-minute Spanish class ever. It was like one of the worst, like a personal failure last night. Like, I was like trying to pull Spanish words out of my head, and I kept getting like the Chinese word coming in. I was like, stop it. But I actually have a question for you, Anthony, like in regards to language learning. So, would you mind kind of describing, say, like your processes of learning Georgian, and also too, like maybe you could describe like some feelings along the way of like how maybe you're working through some of the challenges of learning the language, but then like, I'm also kind of curious about like your feelings like after you're like, at certain points and maybe through some of your experiences, like, oh, like I am improving, like I am getting better. So just a little bit curious about like maybe some of the feelings of failure, but then like how that worked over like a long period of time.
Yeah, okay. Good question, my friend. So we go back, 4 years of studying already. When did I feel good about Georgian? It was probably when I didn't expect it would happen. So instead of, oh, I will have a dinner tonight, I will speak and I will be confident with the family, these were not the moments that I was actually confident. Little things of life, like, okay, I go to the supermarket and somebody from the post office is so surprised that I can speak Georgian with them. So like astonished, like, wow, you're from Canada. You can speak Georgian and that's amazing. You speak very well. And those little compliments from the outside world, because people have such a low standards of how they think you will speak, because you're a foreigner, you come from a rich country to a second world country, which is, of course, in full development. Now, the capital is not so bad, but if you go in the village, it's literally, they live like, not 100 years ago, but it's very rural. So you can embrace those little moments of compliments, but don't just rely on that, because you can get addicted to praise and good words, so that's not good enough for the long term. So it really has to come from a deep inner feeling of, okay, I'm learning this language. I'm consistent. I'm working on that every week. I take my lessons on italki. I do my things at home. I watch some shows. Let's say I do my flashcards. Personally, I don't like flashcards so much, but if people like them, of course, do what works for you, because it would be a lie to say to people, oh, this works all the time, or this doesn't work. Everybody's different for languages, so you have to experiment and see what works for yourself. For me, I learn a lot just by speaking. And that's why in my lessons there's a big part of conversation, because I think that's when, if you have combined at home some time of personal studies, then you go and you speak. It's unscripted. You have no choice but to adapt. And if there's some gaps in your brain, then your brain will try to fill the gap. But if you fail to fill the gap, then you will feel pain. You will, oh, damn it, I didn't know this. And this becomes a good trigger to go and see what was this rule or what was this vocabulary. So I think it's good also to balance between having teachers and having people who are not teachers. Why? Because your teacher is usually there as a support figure, and he or she will tell you more, it's okay, don't worry about it. You did well today. Of course, they can correct you, but in real life, it will not be as forgiving. So you can go in a restaurant, as I said, taxi driver, pharmacy, or somewhere else. And if you feel like you want to speak English or French, for that matters, resist, don't do it. Like, oh, do you speak English? You must pray that they don't know English. So you will have a real situation of learning. I remember I was in a shop once trying to buy a gift for my wife, like a jewelry. And it's a big shopping mall. You would expect they would know a bit of English with all the tourists. No, I don't know English. So I was forced to speak Georgian to buy, it was a watch or a ring or something. And I'm like, it was not so bad after all. So this is also a sign that you can congratulate yourself. Like, oh, I spoke for maybe it was like 1 minute or 2 minutes, but I understood what she said. I could answer back. Maybe I had an accent, which probably I had, and I still have, but that's okay. So, Dave, to answer your question, those feelings of failures and success, they will be always like a wave. It's like a tide, and you cannot expect always success, and you know that it will not be always failure, because if you work hard and smart, not just hard, but there's a time in the language, but also intelligence and systems, how you learn. But as I said, this is really depending on everybody. Like how you learn is not, I cannot tell you how you should learn. I can be a teacher and give you some tips, but I really encourage people to try things out for speaking, listening, writing, and reading, pronunciation, grammar. All these beautiful tools exist online for most languages. For Georgian, it's very limited. So I had to go more on the TrailBlazer path. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, something else? Was that you answer your question?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. That was really good. And I think, as we learn languages more and more, we kind of discover that the challenges and the ups and downs that we go through when learning a language, and the ways in which we have to force ourselves to put ourselves out there and really take risk in order to learn a language in those situations. We can draw a lot of analogies to just other situations in life, whether it be personal or career development goals and things like that. There's a lot of similarities between the two. And so I know you've gone through evolution in recent years from being a French professor, which you still do, but now you're more focused full-time on being a personal transformation expert. So maybe if you could just kind of take us through that evolution, and so why you decided to go in that direction a little bit more, and what are the sorts of services that you specialize in offering your clients in that respect, I guess?
Sure. So first of all, I want to just clarify, it's not I would like it to be full-time, but for me, I would say it's a startup, to be honest, because I have years of experience in coaching and thousands of hours of coaching and teaching combined, literally thousands of hours, maybe around 4. So I had already this love for personal development many, many years ago. I was raised in a family where my parents literally, they just put me in this bath of books and like personal development, human behavior, psychology, universal laws, communication, all that stuff. Very beautiful stuff for any teenager to dive into if you have the courage to just go in and read these books. And I had this desire to know myself and to understand. So even if I had a hard time in my mid-20s with addiction, this was not representative of my whole life as trying to self-improve and understand my own mind. So with italki, yes, I was, and I am a teacher, but the part I loved the most about teaching was actually connecting with people on an emotional basis and see their full potential behind the excuse or the brakes they put on themselves, like, oh, I can never learn French, I will never be able to make it, I feel so ashamed. All these feelings of guilt, shame, anger, resentment, all these negative emotions. People should understand that it's all there to help you. And that's why I'm not a big believer in just be positive and think positive all the time. For me, it's, I know some people will disagree, and I respect that. Just from my school of thought, from Dr. DeMartini, my mentor, the universe is balanced, and there's an equal amount of positive and negative in any situation, in anybody. So, as a teacher, speaking with people for 60-minute sessions over thousands of hours, I could still see patterns of, okay, they're stuck there. How can I help them improve on that aspect? And actually, most of my coaching clients are coming from my French business first. So they could see the potential as we were speaking, like, I feel like Anthony has something else to tell me that I cannot just pay him $20 to tell me or $30 to tell me. And they tried coaching and they stick with me. They like it. So what I specialize right now is stressed out professionals who are in a career that they don't really enjoy. Maybe they have a very good salary, maybe software engineer, and they're like, man, I make $200K a year, but I feel empty inside. I feel like this is not, there's something more. I have a nice house or a nice car. I can travel. I have good benefits, but I feel like there's something else for me out there. And they come to me, and we start to build the roadmap to create a life that lights them up, to create a life that they will wake up in the morning like, man, this is my life. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. I want to have these like goosebumps of excitement. And I know it's not like, of course, there's some hardship and difficult moments. I have this like every week. It's normal. We are just human beings. But if you can have this feeling in the morning, then it will, instead of needing external motivation to go to work, you have this internal pull towards a vision, a bigger vision, a long-term mission, which is, guys, absolutely more powerful than any kind of, you can do it, like video motivation on YouTube, or I'm going to drink 3 coffee to feel excited about my work. This is a slippery slope. I've been there. 1 a day is okay, but if you go more than that, it can be dangerous. So yeah, I'm focusing right now on helping people build the transition from employee to entrepreneur. They want to create something massive. They don't know how, because sometimes when you have a big vision, it can be quite overwhelming. So it's good to chunk it down in baby steps. And then with weekly accountability, I help them move forward to their new path. And that's very exciting to me.
Super cool. And I actually just continue to take like small notes as we're chatting, because I'm quite interested in some of the content that you're talking about. Just a question that I have for maybe, somebody like myself who could be interested in, say, like a transformation expert or like a life coach at some point in time, is that how do you, or maybe say for somebody looking for kind of like a mentor or like a life coach, like any types of like criteria that you give to them to say like find like somebody that you match with on a good level?
Very good question, Dave. Very good question. Yeah, there are so many coaches out there, and it's almost like a pandemic right now, and I'm sure you can attest. Like you go online, and oh my God, the wave of coaches of all industry, all domain, and I admire that, but I really believe that most people should not coach. Okay, I'm 30 years old, so I'm still considered a young coach, and people, you don't have the experience. People forget I started when I was 13 or 14 years old, so actually I have a decade and a half of experience doing what I'm doing and learning about what I'm speaking. It's not like I read one book and I can teach somebody. It's a lot of time to just be able to teach and coach somebody. So somebody who's looking for a coach, you can go on internet, but try to maybe book more than one. You can book maybe 3 or 4 coaches and have like a top 5 and have a first session with them and see how you feel. And look out for not only how you feel, but are they going to tell you the truth about what they see in you in terms of maybe limiting beliefs, but also is the price according to your budget? That's also a thing, because you can have people like Grant Cardone, who is one of my mentor right now, but he's charging, I think, $40,000 for 1 hour session. But you can have like programs just like in groups that is less expensive. So price, how you feel with them, are they truthful? Do you have a good background? They have testimonials maybe on their website, something you can interesting, or some videos from other people, third-party information. That's also important. And also on their website or on their LinkedIn profile or whatever, in their about section, do you feel a connection already before meeting them? Because that's a good sign. For example, on my LinkedIn, I try to write a text that's representing, if my ideal client will read this, he or she will feel compelled. It's more of like a story, but okay, this man, how can you know me so much? Did you speak to my wife? No, I didn't speak to your wife. I just know who I want to serve the most, and that's what I love to do. Something else for that, I think that's good. A good start, like those couple of criteria. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you sit down with somebody and you kind of outline, like you were speaking about a roadmap earlier for them, that's a bit of a discovery phase, I guess. I guess how do you go about that process? Like, how do you find, like, say somebody, because a lot of times we talk about on this podcast, people have to discover like their personal why. Like they have some higher purpose out there that they want to get to, that they want to discover, and they just don't know how to do it, and they don't know where to find it. And it's like, they see other people and like, oh, this person has this purpose. They're really driven by this thing. They're really inspired, and I just don't feel inspired. How do you go about that exploratory phase to find that? Or say on the other side, if you were somebody and you wanted to discover your personal why, how would you go about that?
That's powerful question. Okay, there's two things I want to mention here. The first thing, whenever you try to do something new, the easiest exercise you can do and the most maybe powerful is to ask yourself, so why are you doing this? But when I say why, I got this exercise from my coaching program. I didn't do this, but from a grants program. So you ask yourself why 5 to 7 times, maybe even more. So I will give you an example. Let's say I want to build a business to provide for my family. Okay, why do you want to do that? Then you have a second answer, but then it's not deep enough. You need to go layers of depth until you have literally a tear in your eye of like, oh, that's the rock. That's the rock I need to move forward. And when you will compare the answer number 1 and answer number 7 or 10, because you can go really deep, and you compare like this was so superficial at the top, but then this is the big why that I want to go for. And it's really just to ask yourself why more often, more times, back to back, to get this. And when you will be at the bottom, like the deepest one, you can see the words that will come out. It will be surely enough related to at least one industry, one activity. Yeah? For me, I know I would love to help millions of businesses create a family culture within their company. How I came from this idea? I'm a family guy, 100%, but I was maybe just limited. I want to provide for my family. Okay, and once that will be done and you make, let's say, 100 to 200K per year, what else after that? And then you just go deeper. Okay, can I create the same vibe in my family, in businesses, so people can trust each other and they have good communication and tell the truth when they have conflict and be mature about it? So that's one thing. The other way, about curiosity. So I consider myself a very curious guy in general. And I know in society it's maybe not as famous to just be curious as an adult. It's like, okay, you're not a child anymore. Just go back to your office, go back to the desk, right? But I would say don't listen to these people who are telling you to not do anything new. So don't judge what you feel. And I said that at the beginning of the show, but don't judge what you're interested about. Don't judge what you're curious about, because you never know where it can bring you. And some people have multi-potential, like we call them, or multi-passionate. And if you don't explore one of them, it's like you're stealing yourself from what is possible. Because let's say you want to do dance, hip-hop dancing, but you also want to be an architect. What's wrong with that? It doesn't mean that you will become a professional dancer, but what if dancing gives you new ideas and creativity because you're in flow with your body, which align body, mind, and soul, and then you can go and make bigger, greater, more unique drawings. Isn't that possible? Go and try it and tell me how it is. And if you don't like it after 3 months, then stop buying the membership and do something else, So don't be afraid to try new things, and you will know quite fast if it's good for you or not. If it's a sport, if it's an art, if it's just university maybe, you want a new degree, go and you will see for yourself. Nobody else can decide for you. And I know it's hard if you have parents who are maybe more conservative, or a teacher, or a priest, if you're more religious, or anybody else. They will try to impose on you their values or their beliefs. This is your life. This is not their life. You can appreciate them, you can respect them, but you have also to be honest with them. Okay, mom, pop, this is my life. I know you want me to be a doctor, but I cannot stand the sight of blood. So can I try something else? Actually, you don't even ask that. You don't ask them, can I try? You just go and do something else, because you're the captain of the ship. Yeah.
I totally in line with that. I have a question that I'm just kind of curious about, like, as we are talking on this particular topic, is that, like, let's say when we're going and trying something new, because I was just listening to you talk about, say, trying a new class, and that might kind of give you creativity or inspiration in another area of your life. do you have any types of advice, or could be like mental models for, say, like how to keep people consistent in a new activity? So, like, for example, like all of us have learned a second language. So, like, any advice that you would give to somebody in like, regardless of the second language, if it's, finding a transformation expert and like making sure you meet with them weekly and you do your activities on the side, or, sport, or like a dance class, like just anything like that. I'm curious to hear if you have any like mental models or advice.
So maybe I have a bit of a different perspective on that. I think for consistency, most people think, oh, I should do this more often, or I will try to take 3 lessons a week. When it's important enough and when you enjoy it enough, you will not have to be so disciplined. So that's the thing, like discipline, I get the principle of discipline. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but if I remember, it was George St. who was saying, discipline is just you make decisions. So I wake up every morning and I decide I'm going to go to the gym. I made the choice. Yes, it's a discipline, but it's also, for me, it becomes a lifestyle. So if people struggle with being consistent, I would just go and ask yourself, okay, how important is this activity for you? And if you feel like you're not consistent, try to connect this activity with other important things in your life. Okay, let's say you want to learn guitar, but you also love to have family time, and you love to read books. So the goal now, and this is from Dr. DiMartini, my mentor, he said many times, spend some 15, 30 minutes to connect this new activity with what is already important in your life and see the benefits of how these two things will intercross together. So how learning guitar will help me have more quality time with my family. I can have a bonfire and play guitar for them and have a happy evening, for example. And you make a list of that, 20, 30, 50 answers. And eventually you will feel the shift. And when you feel the shift, it means that in your brain, there's new connection that will stand the test of time. So instead of just needing, as I said at the beginning, extra motivation, you will remember yourself. Well, I'm doing this because of this, this, and this. Therefore, even if I don't always want to go, like for me, the gym, some days you don't want to go to the gym, but if you value your health and longevity, then you want to go, and you will feel better afterwards. So people, don't be stuck and, oh, I'm not consistent. It can take some time, yes, I'm a coach, but man, you could see some of my days and some weeks I'm like, this is more difficult. It's okay. Just also be kind with yourself. Some people are very, very hard on themselves in terms of performance. I'm one of them. So to just allow myself to, today's not my best day. I'm still going to go train, or I'm still going to do my Georgian lesson. And I will tell my teacher. That's the thing you can, if people with language online, if you don't feel extra good, speak up with a teacher and say, hey, my teacher is David. David, today is not my best day, so I will just show up. I will try to speak, but I will not try to like impress you or whatever. Just, this is how I feel today. And most of the time people will understand that. So consistency is made through connecting what you are doing right now with what is already important in your life. And this, and a combination of, if you try something new and you really love it, the consistency will take care of itself, because you will feel like, I have more energy doing it than not doing it. I want to go to the studio. I want to go in nature. I want to go hiking. I want to go travel more often. I want to go spend more time with the elderly, for example. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point. And I think it's interesting how your life has changed so much, and so many things look different than they did a few years ago. But I know that something you have been consistent with is still going to the gym and still training, like you did, right? Despite having a family and a newborn and everything, that's still, you're doing all these, you have side businesses and everything. And I know Dave and I still train as well, and I can only hope one day when I have a family, I'm still finding time to train. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people let this drop out of their life at some point or never started. And so just to like touch on that, I'm really wondering, because the example you gave of, a dancer that thinks of a good idea for architecture while they're doing that. I've had this so many times in the gym or while I'm running or something like that that's aided me in my professional life. So just from your perspective, why has this been one of the habits that's really stuck and been made a focal point of your life that you'll keep on doing for a long time?
You mean to do other things to inspire me to do something else? Like to receive new ideas?
To continue actually physically training and going to the gym. Yeah, in a literal sense. Yeah.
The physical journey. That's a beautiful one. It's one of my favorite, to be honest. Because yes, I trained martial arts. 2016 was the year of intensity, but most importantly was just the fitness from 2010 or 2011 to today. So I'm not big. So I'm naturally ectomorph. So when I started training, I was really, really skinny. And even now, I'm not the biggest I've ever been. I was way more muscular back in the days. But now I have also other priorities. So I need to find this balance. Okay, if I'm going to spend this time to count my calories, weigh my food, train more every week, it will put more stress on my business and on my family. And this, I cannot afford right now to do this. But I still go 3 times a week. I'm consistent with my training. I know which exercise I'm doing. And I'm at least maintaining the shape I have right now. And nowadays, it's not as much to try to impress girls or like, oh, I'm good looking. This is like, okay, that was 10 years ago. That is not the same when you're already with a beautiful human being in your life. You don't need this anymore. So other benefits of training, the mental benefits of training are even more powerful than any physical benefits. And I spoke with Tyler about this in our podcast last time, yeah? Until you try it, long enough, I would say, I would give you like 12 weeks. A new sport or fitness. If you don't like the gym, do something else. Just find your sport, find your activity. Feel how you feel after a session. And go prove me that you feel worse after moving your body, which is meant to move from the ancestor day of hunter-gatherer. This body is meant to move. Like many, many kilometers or miles a day, according to how you calculate things. I think one of my chiropractor friends, he told me, what was it? Like, we're supposed to walk, I think it was 13 miles a day. So like around close to 20 kilometers. But I said, Robin, nobody's walking this amount. He said, I know, this is modern society, but can you at least go walk 45 minutes outside without any stimulation? I'm like, so you suggest I don't go out with audiobooks. It doesn't mean you should never listen to audiobooks when you walk, because some people like to listen and learn. But there's something beautiful about going out and being in tune with Mother Nature, with Gaia, like he said, my friend. I want to listen to what she has to say, with the billions of years of wisdom compared to a guy who wrote an audiobook. Doesn't matter. It doesn't mean the audiobook is bad. Just what if I listen to the birds? I see babies in strollers. I listen to the dogs. I see the mountains. I see the lake. How is that not a beautiful wisdom and something universal I can bathe into and see, wow, I'm part of this whole of this one thing. And when you walk, for example, one thing I observed for myself is your little drama of the day will melt away, literally. Because as you move your body, it's like your body will process emotions and they will become not as stuck as if you're just sitting on your computer, in front of your computer for 8 to 10 hours a day. You're like, oh, in this crunch position, like, oh man, my life is miserable. Oh man, whatever. Stretch, go out, smile, look up, look at the nature. There's so much more than your little drama. And one thing I love to say to people also, if you feel stuck in a rut, imagine that you're not only a bird, but maybe a satellite, or you're on a spaceship, or you're sitting on a chair on the moon, and you look at the Earth. This is called the overview effect, overview method. The overview from the astronauts who were looking at the Earth. And now tell me how important are your little human problems from this perspective. When you see this flying spacecraft, this ball spinning on itself with gravity, with like, whoa, and I'm worried about my electricity bill or my mortgage or Tiffany at the office told me that my presentation sucked. Big deal. Grow up. It's gonna be okay. You will be fine. Wake up tomorrow. And it's like, okay, we can speak about this another time. So to go back to physical training, because now I went to the astronomical, I'm going to go back to the this mortal environment. If you don't feel good in your body, it will affect all spheres of your life. And Tyler, you told me this this week. It was a beautiful quote. I don't know if you use it already in other podcasts, but people, like healthy people, want 1,000 things, but sick people want only one thing, and it's health. You told me this, yeah, Tyler. It was the other day, if I remember correctly. And you know, when you have any symptoms, your body is speaking to you. There's a reason why you feel that. And people are very fast to go to the hospital and take medication. Look, I'm not against hospitals in emergency situation, but I think it's a plague of society that will go so fast. Oh, I have a flu, therefore I need to take Tylenol, I need to take anti-coughing medication. Like, these symptoms are there to help you heal. And you try to hide them with pills, so it's going to take even longer to feel better. But people don't know about this. And pharma, and maybe I will get shadow banned because of that. But they want to make money, and they want to sell more pills, and doctors want you to take more pills and come more often. So I was raised, my father is a chiropractor, and my mother is a very holistic healer approach, always with herbs and everything. So I know I'm not going to relate with everybody out there, but this is just who I am. And for me, the health is the most important thing. If you have health, you can have everything else. But if you don't have health, you cannot care about wealth or love, because you will be in bed and doing nothing, and it's terrible. So train, love yourself, love your body. It's a temple. Eat well, eat moderately. Don't say, what's the quote? Eat to live, don't live to eat. Right? So that's my advice.
Absolutely, I totally agree, and it's very beautifully put how you mix the micro and the macro there. I've never quite heard that analogy, but it's perfect. It's really good. It ties together. Well, Anthony, I know we could go another couple hours because there's so many topics we want to.
Another time.
We'll have to wrap it up there. But yeah, part 2, part 3, even maybe at some point. But me and Dave, we really just want to thank you for being on the show today. I know our audience is going to get a lot from this episode. There is a lot of wisdom that you provided all of us. If our audience wants to keep up with you outside of the podcast or get in contact with you, what are the best places for them to follow you or find you or interact?
I would say right now my LinkedIn, so Anthony Rivest. So my name is a French name. It's called Rivest. It's written Rivest, but we say Rivest. LinkedIn is the best thing for business, but you can follow me personally on Instagram and Facebook. And also my podcast is going to be released very soon, called Your Brother's Podcast. We can also put the link in the description. I don't know when you guys are going to publish this one, but I'm working on that. I have already many episodes recorded. It's in the editing version now. So it will be also interviews like this, very inspiring stuff. So Your Brother's Podcast or Anthony Rivet on all social media platforms. This is the best way to connect with me. So thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You really appreciate that. And I mean, even, Tyler saying our guests are getting a lot of wisdom. I mean, I have like 20 sticky notes here. I'm just like feeding my brain this morning with a lot of great information.
Awesome,
so thank you so much.
Glad to hear that. My pleasure.
Okay, hope everybody enjoyed that one. That was our interview with Anthony. As you can tell, we could have gone a lot longer with him. He had a lot of really good wisdom to share, and we had a lot more questions, so maybe we'll have to do a part 2 with him eventually at some point. But just some huge takeaways from that one. I think I liked his exercise. One of the ones that struck me is I liked his exercise of asking why over and over again if you're trying to develop, what's your reason for doing something. And so you go layers deep on what are your motivations for doing something and how that can kind of form connections between certain activities. Like, so if you have a professional activity, it's like, oh, well, why, he mentioned, the architect, why would they still be a dancer on the side? Well, it's just like those two things can tie together. You can get ideas from that, or you can enter a flow state that assists you with the other thing. And so I think that's particularly difficult for a lot of us professionals as we get older and we all take on more projects and more things to do, is that you let things drop out of your life. And I think we need to be hesitant about that. If it's something we enjoy, we can really kind of poke at it and see, well, maybe this is bringing me benefits in other domains of my life that are critical to me. So maybe I should think twice about, reducing my time on this. So I really like that analogy that he had. And yeah, just so much good tips on language learning as well. I know many people are interested in that. And I was lucky enough that I had him as my French professor for years. So I kind of got those all along the way. So I was fortunate for that. But yeah, just lots of great advice from Anthony. Dave, what were some of your big takeaways from that episode?
Big takeaways on my side would just be, like, I'd say his like story of transformation. I think is something that a lot of us can learn from. Also, this like mentality of maybe like thinking like longer term, because I think sometimes, like, especially in like say the last like 2.5 years with so much change in the world because of like COVID and everything else going on, is that like it is hard to have this like long term kind of like growth or strategy window, because like things have been so like temporary in the last 2.5 years. But I mean, like, realistically, like when it comes to like skill development and growth development, like it is an extremely long term process. So I think it was like really refreshing just hearing him remind us about that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, and you can see how he kind of, that's been really embedded in him over a number of years. He had a lucky childhood where he was able to have parents that really supported him and gave him the correct literature and the correct environment to learn that. So it's like these things, when you say this wisdom, is just like that Anthony has, is just like, it sounds so like clear and simple. It's like, oh, why haven't I thought of that before, sort of thing. But it's one of those things that it sounds easy, but you have to learn it over a long period of time. So we're lucky enough to have him with us on this episode to share that. So I know Dave was taking lots of notes. I'm going to go back and listen to it once or twice, because I always learn something new when I'm talking to Anthony. So I thought it was a great episode. We hope everybody enjoyed it too. Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you'd like to hear more content from Anthony, he kind of described at the end of the episode there where to find him, where you can message us and we'll put you in contact. And with that, we'll wish you guys a great day, and we'll catch you next time on the next episode. So have a good one.